Hello all. In this session and seminar, we will be seeing the topic called strategy-driven procurement and inventory management optimization. So my name is P.Arjunraj. I am the technical innovation and VAB consultant. I am also the education committee member in Miles Valley Foundation USA, and I am also the South Zone Council member in Indian Value Engineering Society, India, and a member in Save International USA. I can be contacted at my email ID is p.arjunraj@gmail.com. So in this strategy-driven procurement and inventory management optimization, we will be seeing the topic regarding the procurement, inventory, and e-procurement, which means electronic procurement. And I will be closing the session with a case study on the electronic procurement. So as I said, we will start with the topic called the procurement. Okay, so what is called a procurement? Procurement is basically a buying activity. Okay, anything. Okay, it can be any product. So whatever you're going to buy, that becomes a procurement. It's primarily a buying activity. And again, each and every company have to use the strategic decision to look for the better way of procuring the product for their company. And again, here the decision that the company needs to be taken in such a way, they need to integrate the procurement method along with the materials management and also the logistics. So what is the mission of this procurement? Okay, so each and every company should go for a procurement considering the product. It can be the raw material as well, or and again, it can also be a services which are being needed by the production, distribution, and service organization at the right time, the right place, and the right price, and the right quality and the quantity. So whenever you're procuring the product from a third party or a supplier, okay, you need to ensure that the product or raw material or service which are required for production, distribution, and the service, it should be available at the right time, at the right price, at the right place, and also right quality and the right quantity. And again, why we need to go for a procurement? What's the importance? Okay, the decision of procuring the product is will help for the financial leverage of the company, and also that this procurement decisions will impact on 40 to 60% of the sales dollar. So now we'll see what are the things that we need to be purchased. Okay, what is to be purchased basically. So we need to purchase the price, quality, and service. With respect to price, the cost of the goods, the terms of sales, and then the discounts that the supplier is offering to the company, to the customer. And what quality? Okay, they should ensure that you need to purchase the customer should ensure that they are going to purchase the quality which will meet all their specification, and it will also conform to the quality standards. And with respect to service, they should also ensure that they are going to have on time and damage-free delivery, and the procured part will have accuracy, and the availability will be often. And the company should also ensure that they are going to get the product support. And it is always essential that the company should look into price, quality, and service before they buying the product. So we'll see next inventory. What is inventory? Okay, inventory is nothing but a stock or a store of goods. Okay, it can be anything. It can be a stock or store of goods. Okay, so you need to store the product whatever you purchased. So you need to have some place. The storage of the goods in a place, or stock of the goods in a place, that you call that as inventory. And the inventory is again divided into two types. One is independent demand inventory, and one is dependent demand inventory. we will see what is the example of independent demand and dependent demand in further slides. So it's always important to know, to understand that independent demand is always uncertain, whereas dependent demand is certain. So what is independent demand? Okay. Suppose if you take the complete product, it can be a laptop, or it can be a desktop, or it can be a television, or a refrigeration, or a automobile vehicle, car, it can be a two-wheeler or a four-wheeler, a commercial vehicle. Okay, if you take the complete product, then it becomes independent demand. It is always uncertain. Whereas when you're taking the dependent demand, which means the product that are required, the parts that are required to manufacture the product. Say, for example, the computer will have different uh, parts, monitor, keyboard, central processing unit, and similarly the automobile vehicle consists of different parts: engine, transmission, brakes, tires, clutch, etc. So these are the things which comes under dependent demand, which is always certain. So independent demand basically is a complete product. It's basically which is in the form of finished goods, or it can be a product, or it can be items that are ready to be sold to the customer. For example, a computer, a automobile vehicle, television, refrigeration, etc. And the dependent demand is the one, the parts that are required to make the particular product. It can be the computer, or a television, or refrigeration, or a car. And why this is coming under independent demand? Why the parts coming under dependent demand? Say, for example, if the supplier, the brake supplier, uh, is not only supplying to one particular OEM, okay. Similarly, the clutch supplier is not going to supply their parts only to the particular OEM. Okay, they have number of customers. Okay, uh, it is always the inventory is always dependent on the demand that the customer is going to have for their product. So that's why it is always coming under the dependent demand. And again, uh, if one of the OEM is not going to purchase the clutch or a brake or a tire from the particular supplier, and again their business is not going to affect because they have multiple customers. Okay, whereas when you're taking the complete product of a vehicle, okay, it becomes an independent demand. It is again it also depends on the supply and the demand of the customers, end users basically. Okay, and again it is not depending on any inventory model. So it becomes independent demand inventory model. And we have different types of inventories. So the inventories may be raw material and the purchased parts, or the raw material which is coming as a partially completed goods, which are said to be in work in progress. And the finished goods inventories, basically the manufacturing firms or merchandise, which is in the form of a retail stores. All these are a part of inventory. The inventory can also be in the form of replacement of the parts, tools, and supplies, basically supplies, goods in transit to warehouse or customers. So you see the work in progress is also a part of the inventory. Even the goods which is coming from the supplier to the customer is also a part of inventory. And again, um, before you sell the vehicle or any product to the end user, even that also comes as uh, a part of inventory. Basically, the goods in transit to warehouse or customer both can be a part of inventory. So, what are the functions of inventory? So, the important functions is to meet the anticipated demand. And if the demand is more, then they have to store the product or the end product or goods in a large quantity. And again, this inventory is required to smooth the production requirement. Okay, suppose you want to manufacture 1,000 laptops in a month, then you need to have all the 1,000 uh, manufacture 1,000 parts of 2,000 laptops. You need to have all the required raw materials to carry out the complete assembly of the laptop. and also to decoupled operations, to protect against the stockouts, to take advantage of order cycles, and again the inventory will help to hedge against the price increases, and this will help to permit operations to take advantage of the quantity discounts. So these are the functions. Now we'll see the objective of the inventory control. And before we go to the objective, we'll see what is called inventory turnover. The inventory turnover is nothing but the ratio of average cost of goods that are sold to average inventory investment. How much is the company is going to invest, and again how much is the average cost of goods that the company is going to sell to the customer. This will determine the inventory turnover. So normally the ratio should always be in such a way, the average cost of goods that are being sold should be higher than the investment what the particular company is going to invest. So to have the healthy financial statement of any company, the inventory turnover uh, should always be higher uh, than one, which means the average cost of goods that are being sold should be high than the average investment that they made for the inventory. And again, the objective of the inventory control is to achieve the satisfactory level of customer service while keeping the inventory cost within the reasonable bounds. And again, the other objectives include the level of customer service, cost of ordering and carrying the inventory. Effective inventory management is required for a system to keep track of inventory, reliable forecast of demand, what is the demand that are being required, because the demand will vary with respect to the seasons as well, and again it also respect to festivals, and demand will also require a lot of strategies that the company needs to follow, because if the demand is more, then you need to procure the raw material in such a way it should be higher, and if the demand is less, then you should procure the raw material in less quantity. If you procure more quantity when the demand is less, then it leads to higher inventory. When it leads to higher inventory, which means when you have higher inventory, which means uh, you are going to invest more money for the inventory investment, which means your denominator goes on the higher side, and again you're not going to sell your product to the customer because you have less demand, and again your inventory turnover is not going to be one or greater than one, it will be less than one. Okay, and this is not a good sign for the company. So it's always necessary to understand the demand, and again you should also understand the knowledge of the lead times. What is the lead time required to manufacture the product, or to get the parts from your supplier to your company. What will be their lead times, what will be the transit lead time, what is the time required for the particular company to manufacture the complete assembly or a product before they ship to the end customer. And the inventory management will also deal with the three type of cost. One is the holding cost, ordering cost, and then the shortage costs. And normally this effective inventory management will have the classification like B, C classification. A classification is the one which are having a high cost for the particular parts, and which are having under high value basically. And B is the one having the medium value and medium cost, and C is the one having low cost and low value parts. And the key inventory terms here is the lead time, which means the time interval between ordering and receiving the order. The time whatever required for ordering the parts to your supplier, and how much is the time required to receive the particular product. You call that as the lead time. And the holding cost is also called as a carrying cost. It is nothing but the cost to carry an item in inventory for a length of time. It can be usually a year uh, period. And the ordering cost is the one which means the cost of ordering and receiving inventory. And shortage costs are the one uh, which deals with the cost when demand exceeds the supply. When the demand is more than the supply, then you have a shortage cost. That's why it's very important that you need to analyze the demand and the demand basically. According to the demand, you need to either decrease your supply or increase your supply depending upon your high demand or low demand. And again, you should also ensure that you're going to have the key eye on the three type of costs, which are holding cost, ordering cost, and then stoppage costs. Let us see where this procurement and inventory management are being widely used. Okay, this procurement and inventory management are being widely used across all sectors, across all domains, across globe. So we cannot restrict that this procurement and inventory management is not applicable to one particular company and is not applicable to the other company. Let us see what are all the areas or the sectors where this procurement and inventory management can be applied. This can be applied in finance, banking, and service industry, and it can also be applied in defense, aerospace, information technology, healthcare, supply chain, education and research, management, technical sales and marketing, military and homeland security, energy, public service, and also in manufacturing companies. So it almost across, it covers all the sectors where this procurement and inventory management are required. Let us see overview about outsourcing. What is the outsourcing and what is outsourcing is all about, and why we need to go for outsourcing. So as per Dave Griffiths, he states and define uh, that the outsourcing and why that outsourcing is very much important. According to Mr. Dave Griffiths, the strategic use of outside resource to perform the activities traditionally handled by internal staff and resources. Outsourcing is basically giving the work or a order to the third party, which will help the particular company to carry out the required task. So this outsourcing basically provides the services that are scalable, secure, and efficient while improving the overall services, and it will also reduce the cost. Why? The reason why we need to go for outsourcing or the particular company can focus on their core area. Okay, so it's basically make or buy decision. Okay, if they go for a make decision, then they cannot focus on their own on their core. Okay, when they go for a buy decision, they can concentrate on their core areas. So basically, 36 percentage why the company is going for outsourcing is to focus on the core, and 36 percentage is to reduce cost, and 1 percentage is to conserve capital, 4 percentage is to foster the innovation, and 10 percentage is to increase the speed to market. So suppose when you get the product parts like a brakes, clutch, suspension, tires from the other companies, okay, you don't need to go your strategy to manufacture all the individual parts to carry out the complete vehicle assembly. So hence it is also essential to increase the speed to the market, and 10 percentage of the people goes for outsourcing to increase the speed to the market and also to improve the quality, because uh, you cannot achieve the quality if this is not coming under the core area. So if the particular company where you are going to purchase, if they are good and they can achieve the quality, then basically 13 percentage of the people they go for outsourcing basically to improve the quality. And the reasons for outsourcing is both traditional and also modern role are there with respect to the problem and also the business strategies. So we'll see the traditional role and how they react to the problem. Basically, the reason why they want to go for outsourcing is to reduce and control the costs and avoid large capital investment cost, because they need to invest. Okay, so if suppose they manufacture a product or a part on their own, then instead of going for a buy decision, when they go for a make decision, then uh, they need to invest a lot. Okay, so basically to avoid large capital investment costs, they're going for outsourcing. And if they have insufficient resources that are available to manufacture a particular product or any service, then they also go for a insufficient resources. And then they can also go for a outsourcing. And the next important role is a modern role is basically the business strategy. And this will allow the company to focus on their core competency that I told already, which 36 percentage of the people They says that they want to focus on their core competency, keeping up with the cutting edge technologies, uh, and creating value for the organization and its customer, building the partnerships. All these reasons we are going for outsourcing. And we also have some of the problems with outsourcing, which includes the loss of control, increased cash outflow because the cash is going out. So there is again increased cash outflow. The confidentiality and security is also a problem. The selection of a supplier, okay, because if you are not good in selecting the supplier, then it will also lead to the problem. And again, we have too much dependent on the service providers, and we should not go for that. And this is also one of the problems that will be coming because of the outsourcing. And we will also loss of the staff or the moral problems because of the outsourcing. And it's again a time-consuming process. Again, this outsourcing will also ensure will make the provider such a way they may not understand the business environment, and the provider sometimes they may be slow to react to the changes in the business strategy of the company. So we will see the problems with outsourcing with the help of a small example and a small scenario. So the scenario here is to procure the computer cable that are required for the computer. So the person who is discussing with the other person, okay, he is telling that I need to order a special cable for my computer, and he's telling the other person, basically the receiver, he receives the message that uh, no, that is not a cable. That's a piece of rope. Okay. So what the person who is receiving, he understood a computer cable as a rope, and in fact the person who is ordering also telling that yes, I know it's cheaper. He also understood. He also thought that it's a rope, not a cable. And what happens next? Okay, then it was a mistake to sign an exclusive contract with a rope distributor. Then instead of signing a contract with a cable distributor, the company, the orders, the contract or sign an agreement to a rope distributor. And instead of electronic cable, they're going to get a rope. And finally, uh, the procurement manager is being criticized, and the company top management is telling that the procurement manager is a monkey because he signed a contractor with a rope manufacturer rather than signing a contract with a cable manufacturer. So these are the things that will lead to a problem when you're going for outsourcing. So you need to be very much careful, and you need to teach the suppliers and the stakeholders in such a way they will understand your business. And we have some of the procedures to implement outsourcing. So we need to start with a program initiation, program implementation, contract agreement, and you need to fulfill the contract. In the case of program initiations, in the case there we give the opinions and ideas are being shared to form a draft contract. And in the case of program implementation, they will be transferring the staff service level agreement between the service provider and the customer. And again, they establish the communication between the partner, supplier, and the customer, actual transfer of the service, establish the management procedures, and they go with the contract agreement, and finally they fulfill the contract. We'll see the project procurement management process and the key inputs. So I told you we need to go for a make or buy decision, which is nothing but a procurement planning. Then we go with solicitation planning, which is nothing but receiving the RFP request for purchase, and we'll go for a solicitation, which is nothing but receiving the proposal. Then we award the contract, which is nothing but the source selection, which is nothing but supplier selection. Then we go for a contract administration, where we complete the substantial amount of work. Then we finally close the contract, which is nothing but contract close out. Let's see the example of make or buy decision. Okay, so here I'm going to give an example. So suppose if you're buying the espresso, americano, cappuccino, and latte, uh, and when you're buying the espresso, americano, cappuccino, latte, and when you manufacture that in-house, what will be the cost saving? Okay, so you see here the average retail price of espresso is $1.25, and considering the daily savings of having 3 cups per day, suppose if you manufacture it in your own home, then you can save 3.33 uh, dollar. Okay, whereas the average retail cost is considered to be high. Okay, and it's almost $1.25, whereas when you manufacture when you make the espresso in your own home, it comes only 0.42. Okay, you can see how much is the difference. So you can save almost 1.25 minus 0.42, and per day you can say have this much of saving. So considering this, if you have the annual saving or monthly saving, then it's always good to go for a make decision. If not, then you need to go for a make decision. We'll see some of the relationship that we have between the supplier and the customer. Basically, it is nothing but the form of a seller and then the buyer integration, and also the interaction, and how the buyer seller interactions will move from conflict to integration. In those days, it's basically based on the transaction is based on marketing. And again, the relationship between the supplier and the customer is transaction based marketing. That was leading to the conflict. But then nowadays, it's not like that. Okay, beyond the 2000, we are with relationship marketing business, where there is always a cooperation between the supplier and the customer. And in this century, basically, for the past decade, maybe 10 years, so both the customer and the supplier, they have been integrated together, and they form the customer relationship management, and they integrate supplier and the customer, which is nothing but one will be the seller and one will be the buyer. So buyer and the seller, they integrate together, and they satisfy the customer. And again, there are three types or three steps to measure the customer satisfaction. And first is that the company should understand the customer needs and the customer feedback, and again the ongoing measurement. So first, they have to take care of the internal measurement. They have to take the customer feedback, and they also need to understand the customer needs. So these three steps are required to measure the customer satisfaction. And we'll see some the buyer seller relationship, how it can be built up. Okay, basically the consumers form the relationship to reduce choices, to simplify the information gathering and the entire buying process, to reduce the risk of dissatisfaction, and again they also ensure that they are going to perceive the positive value received in a long-term buyer-seller relationship, and that is it is nothing but a key benefit for the customers. And customer they may switch the loyalties if they perceive better benefits from the competitor. Okay, so it's always best to have the relationship in a coordinated manner. And we will see how the relationship comes between the customer and the supplier in different companies. So when you take the multinational company and the tier one, basically, or the relationship between the OEM and the tier one company. Tier one company are the one which supplies to the OEM. Let's say, for example, brakes, suspension, tire manufacturer will be a tier one company. For example, Apollo, they get tires. MRF, Bridgestone, they are the tire manufacturer. They are the tier one suppliers or first tier company to the OEMs, basically. So their relationship is always basically it's kind of a close family relationship, partner kind of relationship, where they have high trust and interdependency based relationship based relation. And when you take the relationship between the tier 1 company and the tier 2 company, it means tier 2 company are the one which supplies part to the tier 1 company. Say, for example, JK Tires, MRF, Bridgestone, Apollo, they get the parts from their their supplier, which means some sub suppliers will be there. And the sub suppliers supplying the part to MRF or Apollo is coming under second tier company. So the relationship between the first tier and the second tier will be a kind of cousin kind of relationship. They are the provider, dependency, medium, but the rest will be medium, it is not high. And again, it's also based on the specification based. And when you take the relationship between the tier three company and the tier 2 company, which is again, there is no tie kind of relationship between these two companies. And they normally behave like a boss and a servant, and it's again domination is high. There is no trust, and again the relationship between these two companies are based on the price. Next, we will see the customer retention in the automobile industry. So again, it is very important to retain the customer. So you can see the graph trend showing the percentage of customer retention against various companies: Hyundai, Ford, Honda, BMW, Kia Motors, Toyota, Chevrolet, Mercedes-Benz, Lexus, Cadillac. It means no OEMs or no companies having 100% retention of the customer. So you can see the Hyundai unable to retain the customer only 60 percentage, which means 40 percentage of the customer who is buying the Hyundai first time, they do not prefer to buy the Hyundai the second time. So when 100 percentage of the people who buy Ford vehicle first time, only 55 percentage buy Ford second time. So percentage of customer retention is going to get reduced, and it's very important that customer retention is very important, and that can be achieved only if you have the good quality, good service, good uh, coordinate relationship, and good technology that you need to provide to the customer, so that the percentage of customer retention gets uh, minimized in such a way you can retain the customer to the greater level. And we will see there is some potential for long-term relationship between the supplier and the customer. So you need to understand, is the supplier willing to participate? You need to ask some of the key question so that this will help for a long-term relationship. Is the supplier willing to participate? Can the supplier commit necessary resources? When in the case of design phase, can the supplier participate? How is the supplier unique from the other supplier? Can the supplier participate in a joint problem solving and improvement? And will there be free and open information sharing between the supplier and by the supplier to the customer? Will the supplier engage in future planning? Can the supplier maintain the buyer's need for confidentiality? What is the general level of comfort between the parties? And how well does the supplier understand the buyer's industry and business? Will the supplier share cost data? Is the supplier willing to share the innovation data earlier or yearly in earlier stage, whether the supplier is going to share the innovation data or not? And can the supplier commit to the dedicated capacity? What is the supplier commitment level? So all these questions you need to ask that will help for the better relationship between the customer and the supplier. So when you're going for a supplier selection and evaluation, first thing what you need to do is you need to recognize the need for supplier selection. Why you need to go for a supplier selection? You need to recognize the need. Then you need to identify the key sourcing requirements. What are the key sourcing requirements that are required for the supplier selection and evaluation? And you need to determine the sourcing strategy. What strategy you're going to buy? Are you going for a share of business between two suppliers having 50-50 percentage each, or 60-40 percentage each, or 70 percentage and 30 percentage each? And because sometimes you cannot depend on only one supplier. If that supplier is becoming bankruptcy or the failure, then you need to have the alternative. So you need to determine the sourcing strategy. Then you need to identify the potential supply source. You need to limit the suppliers in the selection pool. You should not have too much suppliers. Also, you should limit the suppliers in the selection pool, and you should determine the method of supplier evaluation and selection. You need to select the supplier and you need to reach out for the agreement. So these are the ways where how you can select the supplier and how you can evaluate the suppliers. So when you're going for the initial supply evaluation rating, so you have a lot of categories against which you need to give the weight and you need to give the score, and considering the score, you need to select the supplier. So the categories include the quality systems, management capability, financial condition, cost structure, delivery of performance, and the technical process capability, information system capability, and again the gender-based category. So based on all this category, the suppliers have been evaluated and they rated in the scale of 1 to 5 against each and every weight of 100%. So they need to give the rating and they need to identify how much percentage of rating that the particular supply will fall under for a quality system management capability. And again, in quality, they have a lot of sub category also, sub parts, sub category also. They also need to look for the process control system, total quality commitment, PPM, and when you take the management capability, they need to see the management labor relationship, and the management capability. Financial condition is very much important. You need to select the thing considering the financial stability of the company. They need to see the debt structure, turnover ratio, cost structure, and again whether the particular supplier can deliver the product on time. What will be the lead time? What will be their responsive time? And what is their technical capability? All these things needs to be weighted and rated accordingly. So I can give an example of a information system capability having a weight of 5%, in which 3% goes to the capability, and then for a software it goes 2%. In the rate of 1 to 5, they have the capability, but they don't have the design software, so it comes zero. Okay, uh, and you see, they get only 3 out of 5. So this will help to understand how much is the how much is the supplier capable of the particular category, the particular system basically. And the supply selection and evaluation is based on cost, quality, safety, on-time delivery, service risk, and what is their social responsibility, convenience and simplicity, agility, policies and regulations. All this based on all these criteria, the suppliers are being selected and they are being evaluated. When you're going for a new supplier development process, uh, you sent uh, the supplier initial assessment questionnaire and supplier registration form. Then the supplier will come back. The initial supplier evaluation based on questionnaires, they will be coming back to the customer. Then the request for sample and approval from the quality control department and also R&D department. Then the customer will be visiting the supplier site for audit. Then the customer will go for the approval of the particular supplier. And after supplier approval, the supplier will give the pilot lot or the trial product. And finally, if the testing everything is found to be okay, then finally the supplier will go for a certification and final approval for the commercial supply from the supplier to the customer. And the integration is very much important in respect to the customer and then the supplier. So you are not going for a transaction based marketing or the relationship based marketing, but nowadays it's also integration based relationship between the supplier and the customer. So you need to integrate the supplier in all the stages. So there are different stages. So you need, when you're going for idea generation from the voice of customer, you need to integrate that along with the customer and also the suppliers. So you need to integrate the business technical assessment along with the suppliers. You need, when you're going for a product process development or a concept development, you need to integrate that with the suppliers. And when you're going for a full scale production or a operation, again you need to integrate suppliers. Then going for a prototype build, a test, or any pilot ramp up for operations, you need to integrate with the suppliers. And when you're going for any design development activities, again you need to integrate with the suppliers. So supply integration is very much essential in all the stages. This will help for the better achievement of the goal. This is a small example how the company will be planning integration of the suppliers. So when you take the engine, it is the heart of the vehicle. So engine is having different components like intake manifold, exhaust manifold, pistons, cylinder block, crankshaft, camshaft, push rod, valve train components, bearings, uh, camshaft, dipstick, cams. It is having the cylinder head, throttle body, air filter, etc. So when you take the complete engine, when you want to assemble a complete engine, you need to get all the parts. Okay, so one parts will come from different suppliers. So hence it is very much essential that integration is very much important. This integration needs to be planned considering demand and then the supply. So if the demand is more, then the procurement method should be such a way they need to get more parts from the supplier. If the demand is less, then they need to procure less part. That will also help to avoid more avoid more inventory, and again it will reduce the inventory cost and inventory turnover can be higher. So you need to ensure that you're going for a complete integration from each and everything so that you achieve uh, the procurement strategies and also the inventory strategies for a better management system. So next we see some of the electronic procurement process and then the advantages of the e-procurement or electronic procurement. E-procurement is also uh, refers as electronic procurement. It uses the internet-based information communication technologies to carry out the individual or all stages of the procurement process, including the search. It's again a collaborative procurement of goods, works, and services using the electronic methods in every stage for bringing in efficiency and transparency. So we'll see what are the components of a typical e-procurement system. So it is having intent management, it is having electronic tendering, it is having electronic auctions, contract management, catalog-based procurement. So when you're going for a e-procurement, you need to involve the consultants, suppliers, contractors, logistics systems, buyers, payment system providers. So all this you need to integrate and you need to go for a e-procurement system. We have different types of e-procurement, electronic maintenance, repair, overhaul, electronic sourcing, and electronic information or informing. So when you're going for EMRO, which is nothing but maintenance, repair, and overhaul. So here you are using enterprise resource planning software. It can generate and send purchase orders for maintenance, repair, and operating the supplies. And you have the e-sourcing, which is also known as uh, reverse auctioning. It is used to identify the new suppliers. It will also connect to a wide variety of suppliers. Suppose if we do not know the supplier, what are the suppliers is there for a piston or a cutting rod or for a tire or for a brake, then the e-sourcing will help to identify the suppliers, where they are located, what is their capability. Okay. So all this can be obtained through the electronic mode itself. And again, the last category is e-informing or e-information, where you exchange the purchasing information between the buyer and the suppliers. And this will also help to allow the suppliers to build a tender. Basically, the elements what we have in the case of e-procurement include the request for information, request for proposal, request for quotation, RFQ, we call reverse auctioning, procurement cards, you have pre-cards, credit cards, even the payment can be done online. So there is no manual intervention, even the cash transaction can be online, and it will also help you to have a record. There will be obvious transparency will be there. Um, and you know when where the money can come. Okay, it will also help you to plan the resource accordingly. There are some issues with respect to the e-procurement from the buyer side, and we will see how that issues can be approached and how we can resolve the issues. The first issue is the complexity of procurement procedure that can be approached with the help of the procurement reforms. Next is the issue which is related to goods, works, and services, where the wide range of items to be procured. And the best approach is to conduct an ABC analysis. You need to select an A item initially, which means A is the item having high cost and high value. And next issue is the organizational resistance. And the approach is to go for a change management. And again, there might be possibility of lack of IT skills among employees. The best method is to go for a training, and the lack of resources with the government. Then that can be approached with the help of public-private partnership. Next, we see some of the issues that because of the e-procurement that the seller side needs to look into it, and how that seller side issues are been approached. With respect to seller point of view, they have the difficulty in changing over to a new system of tendering, and this can be approached with the help of adoption of the suppliers and low level of technological skill, the supplier seller side basically that can be achieved with the help of that can be approached with the help of training and help desk. Then the seller side is also having the difficulty in access to a site. E-procurement will help the centers to access to the site, and resistance to change can be overcome with the help of the change management. And e-procurement system side, what are the with respect to the system, what are the issues and how it can be approached. With respect to the system, there is always a difficulty in establishing and maintaining the system that can be achieved approached with the help of sharing the responsibility through public-private partnership. And again, there might be an issue of lack of financial resource for maintenance and transaction handling, and that can be approached with the help of designing appropriate business model and also to levy of the service charges. And there is again a concern of confidentiality of bids and authenticity of the bids, and that this issue of confidentiality and authenticity can be um, overcome with the help of a digital signature certificate. And the last issue is the varying the multiple requirement from the various departments that can be achieved or approached with the help of process reforms and standard-based system. So all this will help for a better e-procurement system. And, the e-procurement system will act as a catalyst for a procurement reform. This will also help to enhance transparency, monitoring, and control in the procurement process, to bring in economies of scale through aggregation of demand, to reduce cost of doing business for both the government and also the suppliers, to establish the level playing in the field and a fair competitive platform for the suppliers. And the overall e-procurement will also reduce the lead time basically, and it becomes more transparent, and it helps to track the stages, and it also helps to plan the project basically. We'll see some of the case study in e-procurement. Um, this e-procurement is being followed across the globe, and this has been having the international experience in public procurement service in Korea, GBs in Singapore, and it's also been followed in state of Andhra Pradesh in India. It's also been followed in a company in the Corps portal for a get trade trademark, state of North Carolina in USA. There are different service providers for the e-procurement also. So we'll see the case study of electronic procurement in India in the state of Andhra Pradesh. This idea came in the year 2000. There was a workshop which was held during the period for the e-procurement, which involves all the key e-procurement vendors. The pilot was being designed with four government agencies, which focuses on electronic tendering and also the public partnership, private partnership model which has been designed. And the proposal has been sought from top 10 e-procurement vendors across the globe, and extensive training has been given to the suppliers and also the buyers, and the help desk has been established for hand pooling. Again, here the project interested to the bidder, they offer the least fee for providing the electronic procurement services. Uh, and again, the government of Andhra Pradesh, they achieved the key achievements because of the e-procurements are they achieved a transaction volume of about 10 billion US dollar since the launch in January 2003. And currently, 70% of the government procurement happens through the portal. Reduction in average tender processing time is from months to 1.8 months, which means you can see the lead time is also going to be lesser. Tender system, there is always an increased participation in bids through online submission. Because of this online submission, the number of bids are the competitor also going to be higher, and this will help for the easy selection process, which has been extended from 70% yearly case to 100%. and it's also having the significant cost savings, and there is almost a reduction of 20% of the cost. And here in the achievement of government of Andhra Pradesh with respect to the e-procurement system is concerned, almost 600 department user and over 1,500 suppliers provided hands-on training. And government of Andhra Pradesh is the winner of a Golden Icon Award for exemplary electronic government's initiative. So this is the website that the government of Andhra Pradesh is using, eprocurement.government.in, and you can see the number of years from January 2003 to July 2005. You can see the bids number of tenders is getting increased, and also the value in crores also getting increased. So this is the trend of a procurement method that helps for the improvement with respect to the tender system, and also it brings more competition and it brings more transparency. And this is also helping for the committed, accountable, responsive, and inspiring genuine government, basically. And because you get all transparent kind of thing, and you can see some of the values of central system that have been given by different suppliers, and so you can see the IBM value also. And this system brings complete transparency, clarity, and also it gives the strategy for the particular departmental head and also the government agencies to take the proper decision regarding the tendering system, procurement system, selling system, and also the auction system. So the critical success factors of e-procurement are the effective procurement policy and reform, which indicates the process of re-engineering to transform the government procurement process. And you need to have the sound legislative and regulatory framework. And the success of the e-procurement is based on the well-designed business model. And again, it also based on adequate participation and the commitments from the participant to the communication strategy, and also uh, the strategy of the relationship between the buyer and the suppliers, and flexible systems for meeting the requirements from all the agencies. And the training is very much important. Effective training and the change management plan is will help for the success factor of e-procurement in developing the effective skill base with respect to the new purchase methodologies. And this e-procurement will help for open standard based interoperable technology infrastructure. And we'll see some of the benefits of e-procurement. The benefits include the real-time business intelligence to vendor of customer needs. Companies can track the purchases being made in all departments and ensure compliance to standards. That is meeting the standards or not. Reduction of inventory level. Procurement manager do not need to be as highly trained or paid because such systems are standardized and it is easy to learn. You have the transactional benefit, which will reduce the invoice to the payment time. You have the compliance benefit, where you adhere to the policies, procedures, and again, reliable. You get the reliable information, and you have the management information benefits, which involves customer satisfaction, supplier satisfaction. You are also going to stick to the list of suppliers rather than going outside to arbitrary and questionable sources. So you're going to get verified data, all the data from the company. And the last important thing is that you're going to get the price benefit, basically. Electronic processing will help to save costs relating to the manual process, which involves the postage stamps and again other stationary costs as well. That's it with respect to the topic called the strategy driven procurement and inventory management optimization. So it's very important to optimize the procurement process and also the inventory process, considering the demand and uh, what needs to be purchased, what needs to be uh, carried out in such a way, considering the cost, quality, time, and it's always important to go for a right quality, right quantity at the right place at the right time. Thank you for an opportunity. I can be contacted at p.arjunraj@gmail.com in case of any queries on the topic strategy driven procurement, inventory management optimization. And it's not an end, it's the beginning. We have just kept our legs in the sea, still milestones for us to come to. Thank you.